female filmmakers, that's like a thing that's pretty rare nowadays. Still, unfortunately. It's crazy. What is this girl doing here? She's not supposed to be on a film set.
Being a female in a male predominant industry. Tell me a little bit about what that's like and how you see things moving forward within that space.
Oh God.
What does creativity mean to you?
It's pretty much dedicating yourself fully to the craft you're fully passionate about.
How do we be unique?
That's a really good question.
Welcome to the Mood Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring conversations with top artists and creative minds from various fields, exploring their personalities, purposes, processes, and philosophies. Whether you're a seasoned photographer, an aspiring artist, or simply someone who loves to learn and be inspired, this podcast is certainly for you. I'm your host, Matt Jacob, and thank you for joining me in today's conversation. We're joined by a remarkable young filmmaker, Julie Valentina. At just 22 years old, Julie has already carved out an impressive name for herself in the industry. After dropping out of university, she took a leap of faith, learned the skills of photography and filmmaking, packed her bags, and started to travel, where she immersed herself in a valuable community of filmmakers. This bold move paid off when she won 2 major contests in the Calder Creative course, gaining her recognition and opening an array of doors to collaborations with big-name clients like Beautiful Destinations and Turkish Airlines. Now, Julie is shifting gears a little bit to focus on personal branding, building an agency, and exploring new business ventures. In my conversation with her, Julie opens up about her experiences as a female filmmaker in a male-dominated industry, the unique challenges she has faced, and how she has turned those challenges into opportunities. We discuss the importance of community in her journey, the role of self-development in her creative process, and the paradox of being versus becoming as she strives to stay present while continuing to grow. We discuss the most surprising and unsettling realizations she's had about the concept of success in the filmmaking industry, and we touch upon her creative process, uncovering how she defines creativity and how it shapes both her work and her identity as an artist. Julie also shares her thoughts on maintaining authenticity in an industry driven by trends and social media, and how she balances commercial success with staying true to her artistic vision. So now, I bring you Julie Valentina. Julie Valentina, welcome to the Mood Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Nice to see a young, smiling, bright face in the studio. I wanted to kick things off with a topic I think we can cover, and I've covered with other female creators before, which is being a female in a male predominant industry, I guess. Tell me a little bit about what that's like and kind of how you see things moving forward within that space.
So I I can only agree, like female filmmakers, that's like a thing that's pretty rare nowadays. Still, unfortunately. But to be honest, for me personally, it was never a problem to be a female in the industry. I think one of the main reasons why there's not as many females might be because there's not as many bigger role models. So, for example, in the travel filmmaking space, Sam Calder has been a big inspiration for a lot of people, also for me. But I think you naturally associate yourself with like people from the same gender. So I think that might be a reason for it. But overall, it's never really been a problem. Like, I never felt like I'm not equal just because I'm a female. I'd rather see it as like a benefit for myself because you stand out way more than, yeah.
What? Why do you think? Do you think it's purely because there's a lack of role models, and is that something that you want to be for other females in that area?
I surely think that the lack of role models might be one of the reasons, of many for sure. I mean, I think the number is growing nowadays, and I'm happy that I get a lot of messages from people who are like telling me, hey, it's super cool that I finally found someone who's also female in the industry who I can see as a role model. So, partially, yes. But of course, that's not the main reason why I'm like doing filmmaking. I'm truly passionate about it. I think one of the other reasons might be because it's still like really technical, especially filming, but to be honest, it's not really like that much difference to photography.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out. I've been thinking about this for a long, long time. Actually, since Julia, our friend Julia, brought it up to me when I had her on the podcast because I wasn't quite aware of the discrepancy. But I'm also very concerned about not kind of making equal outcomes the agenda, but more equal opportunities, right? So it got me thinking, why? I mean, that role models is definitely a thing in many industries. Females might feel intimidated. I guess that it's a male dominated thing, and like you said, like for like, often you see role models as the same sex. Often, not of course every time. But then you think about the technical aspect as well, where men's brains are slightly different than women's brains in that aspect in terms of genetics. We're kind of more drawn to, boys with toys, right? It's gadgets and cameras and stuff like that. But then women tend to be a lot more creative and tend to be a lot better with expression and emotions and stuff, which more collaborative, which in my mind makes them a much, much better candidate, shall we say, for a filmmaker or creative in that space. I don't know where my question is coming from here, but let me know your thoughts on that. Is that something you actually see? I'm more interested in kind of your daily experience, especially doing jobs, going traveling. What your experience as a female is like? I mean, is it difficult to integrate, especially if you're with a team?
I would say it depends on the country a lot. Like, I mean, I'm working in a lot of different countries, and there are some countries that see men and women not equally yet. Especially last year, I've been in one country like more frequently, and one experience really sticked in my head. It was like a local production team at the shooting place walking past us, and they were like, "What is this girl doing here? She's not supposed to be on a film set or on a video set." And I was like, wow, that's like crazy. But I think that's like about, yeah, I mean, having the confidence and knowing why you're there. Obviously, the production team wouldn't have to fly you out there if the team there would be
Mm,
competent enough, you know?
yeah.
But yeah, overall, like this is just like small experiences. Overall, I would say like I still have like a lot of really good experiences. Last year I directed a campaign in Panama. And it was pretty crazy. I was 21 years old and I was the youngest person of the whole production team. And the rest of the people were all 30 and mostly guys. And that's been like everyone was super respectful. Everyone was like took me seriously, and that was an experience I learned a lot from for sure.
I'm sure you had the thing of being young, which whatever sex you are, people think, well, you don't know what you're doing because you're so young. And you had the female aspect. It is talk about a challenge, but it sounds like it was if you can reframe it as like a purely learning experience, whether you've been doing it for 1 year or 20 years, right? Always learning. But why, for you, filmmaking? What was it about filmmaking, cameras, photography, creativity? What was it about that kind of drew you in?
It's kind of funny because I started being more in front of the camera than behind the camera. So, like modeling in Germany. And then I got super interested in taking photos just for myself, for my own Instagram. I collaborated with lots of photographers. And then I wanted to learn about like photo editing. And in Germany, I got like a lot of new friends who were also doing photography and filmmaking through that. And at some point, I just got bored by just still images. I wanted to create like actual stories. And actually, one friend of mine who was already a successful filmmaker, he did like jobs for like bigger brands in Germany. And I was like, wow, this is actually possible. And he studied media conception production. It's called media conception production. And I got super interested about the whole studies. And
What is it?
it's like, at university, it's like a course. Um, studies. How do you say it?
Studies?
Studies?
Course?
Course
Yeah.
studies. It's like a whole study. And yeah, you learn everything about post production, about production, storytelling. And I started to study that, and that was like the start of my filmmaking career, kind of.
How was the formal education experience in creativity, essentially, or production?
So I quit after 3 semesters, but I would say it's been very beneficial for the network. So you're surrounded by a lot of people who are interested in the same thing. and you also learn everything in location. So you're kind of forced to stick to it. But on the other hand, also like university has a lot of limitations. And for example, I've always been interested in travel filmmaking. And of course, in university, you don't learn anything about travel filmmaking, more about like productions in place and all the technicalities. But I did the course from Sam Calder. And that's been super beneficial for me. Like, additionally to the studies, that also allowed me to quit my studies because I got all the knowledge from there.
So you gain more knowledge from kind of non-formal education in terms of online courses. YouTube, I guess, played a big part in the self-learning process.
Crazy. Like, I mean, nowadays all the information are on YouTube. Like, there's nothing you can, if you want to learn drop shipping, if you want to learn how to build an agency, a business, everything's on YouTube nowadays, which is super powerful and sometimes I guess also overwhelming because there are so many possibilities.
Yeah, and does that make it more difficult to stand out? I mean, if you're learning from the way other people do it or the way they teach, right? And therefore it probably becomes more accessible to people. You know, more people um, have cameras these days. More people have the accessibility to YouTube. It's free essentially if you can deal with ads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Have you sensed that, you know, as a young female coming through that process, have you sensed like, oh my goodness, what the overwhelming part is learning it, but also the competition and the industry? How do I make myself stand out? How do I make myself different? Is that a battle that you've had, or have you just kind of shut out the noise and found your own way through it?
I think I started pretty early stage when all this travel content creators started to come up. That was like 2.5 years ago, or even 4 years ago, but like more frequently 2 years ago. I feel like over the last couple of years, it's been an insane growth in content creators, especially in the travel space. And in the beginning, I was for sure struggling, but I think the biggest chance for me was Colder Creative because I did some of their contests and that gave me a lot of recognition in like the travel filmmaking space. That's been amazing and also like networking. Like I feel like the personal relationship with the people who are already successful in what they're doing, that's what helped me the most actually.
Yeah, interesting. Calder Creative, as in Sam Calder's online
Yeah.
platform. Tell us a bit more about that because that's interesting. A lot of people go through that.
hmm So it's basically an online learning platform. And they also give you the opportunity to do like contests where, for example, every year they host a My Year contest. You can do like a recap of your year. The first place gets to go on a trip with him. Second place gets a cash credit. And then other contests like we did a 1+ contest where we got sent to different locations. Like one team was in Tokyo, the other team in Costa Rica, and the third team in, I forgot the third location, but yeah, pretty much like super cool challenges where they allow you to put your name out there, and they have a big platform. They work with big clients, so it's amazing.
Mm. And was that competition part of it the point where you've realized, oh, I can do this, or I've got something here? Do you feel like that was a recognition point in your life?
For sure. So I think when I came to Bali for the first time 2 years ago, it's been super changing for me. Like just the perspectives, what people are doing. Like people are able to live out here to create content and yeah, just have a lot of freedom, which is incredible. And that was the first stage. And then when I came back, I got the opportunity to go on tour with DJs, which was also crazy. It was like the next step, I would say. And also when I came to Bali, I got to know a friend of mine who was working for Beautiful Destinations. And I didn't even know that it's like an agency that flies you out and shoot for tourism boards. And then that was like the next goal. And I intentionally took part in the Meyer contest to win it, to become part of Beautiful Destinations because I knew this opportunity was there.
Right. Okay. And was that where your travel bug started, or had you always been interested in travel, and if so, why?
I've always been traveling. I always loved to travel, like ever since I was in school, even like with parents on vacation, and then when I was studying, and yeah, always I love traveling.
Do you do much personal work on the side, or is it a lot of just client brand stuff that takes you to these places?
Over the past year, it's been mainly client brand stuff. Actually, I didn't do a lot of personal travel at all. But now I'm kind of working on different ways to have a little bit more freedom and not like just be dependent on the client shoots to go
Mm,
to places.
yeah. how do you manage the travel side of it? I mean, from someone who's getting old, and who's been traveling most of my life as well, I'm just so tired of it. As maybe someone who's got age on their side, but do you find do you find different strategies that work with the travel side of it? Because I mean, for those that don't know, travel filmmaking, travel photography, they are fucking long days. It's tough work. You've got to be really like up for it. How do you manage that? Do you have some kind of routines or strategies that you take with you?
So to be honest, over the last year, I didn't have any routine, which was insanely bad for my health. But and it feels like every new place you're going to, you're a new person because every new surrounding changes you in a certain way and all the people you're surrounding yourself with. But for me, journaling was really beneficial and meditating. It's like the mental peace you get every single day for like 15 minutes. Do you journal or meditate?
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I only found them in the last I've been meditating on and off for about 5 years. Last couple of years, like, it's been a big part of my life. Journaling was introduced to me about, yeah, about 2 years ago as well. Um, I don't I don't mind it. I don't really use it as a diary. Maybe I think that's more of a cathartic experience if you use it more like a diary. I don't know if you can tell me, but it's definitely helped my mindset for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do you write down? Like daily recap
I
or?
actually I have two journals. One we bought. My wife has the same. We have what's it called? 5 year. What's the 5 year one where we log a day every day, like 4 or 5 lines. What
Hmm.
happened today, or what's going to happen, or what you're looking forward to today, whatever comes into your mind. Just a little sentence every day of the year, and it's got 5 years for it. So hopefully we look back in 5 years and just interesting to see. It's kind of a long journey, but the other one's the one I'm using at the moment is manifestation journal, just because I don't know, I'm interested to see how powerful that can be. But it's difficult because it kind of guides you every day rather than just I do have a third journal which I use less, which is basically just a notepad. I
Wow,
write
three
but
journals.
but that's more of like an inspiration book rather than a journal. Like something ideas come up, or if I want to write something, I'll write in there rather than a guided question by question type thing.
Okay.
You know. So
And
there you go.
the manifestation in the sense of you've already accomplished it, so you write it down.
No, the other way. Kind of what do you what do you want to visualize?
Okay.
What's going to help you get towards your goal? Just
Hmm.
to reinforce what your goals are, splitting them down into day by day, and then the journal asks you different questions every day. So it's just actually the best bit about that is you get asked questions that you didn't think about before, so it makes you think. But I don't love it that much. I'm going to go back to more of a gratitude journal, I guess, after that one's finished.
Hmm.
I'm just experimenting, I guess. Meditation, on the other hand, is life changing.
It is.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
I feel like journaling is just like a little tool.
Hmm.
Meditation is more of a lifestyle change, and yeah, that's been really really powerful.
What kind of meditations do you do?
Vipassana, so I focus on mostly breathing every day. I throw in some breathing exercises before I kind of settle down. It helps me get a lot more clarity. Um, I I'll either do unguided or guided, depending on how I feel that morning. If I do guided, I listen to Sam Harris' Waking Up app, which is super cool. Purely mindfulness, um, nothing too spiritual, nothing too esoteric. Just being conscious of everything that's going on at that time. So, which is actually going to lead me on to my next question for you. It's really highlights the difficulty of being versus becoming. I being present, enjoying where you are in life or in that day and in that moment, but also having goals, having something you want to become towards or go towards. You have the whole life in front of you essentially, and an exciting career that you're doing really well in, and probably the sky's the limit. Do you get distracted by that? Is it difficult for you to kind of just, okay, I'm here. Let's just enjoy what's coming up at the moment.
Embrace the moment. Yeah, it's really hard for me. I have big goals and it's really hard for me to not work on them because I've already seen the potential in so many things. Like, for example, filmmaking was such a big dream for me. And over the last years, everything has changed and like I've grown in so many ways. And now like seeing more opportunities and challenges, especially with like the whole YouTube inspiration, like so many entrepreneurs are sharing their life online and it's super inspiring for me. So I kind of have these big goals which are constantly adapting, and it's hard for me to not work on them and just focus on I'm grateful to be here right
Mm,
now because I just see how much potential is still out there.
yeah, it's really difficult. It doesn't go away. It's just kind of compartmentalizing both, I guess.
I know, I
Tell,
know.
tell, tell us a bit about your goals. Without giving too much away, but tell us kind of what your goals look like over the next few years and beyond.
So over these past couple of months, my goals actually changed a lot because the last year, my biggest goals were always like work with bigger clients, get more travel jobs, and be able to sustain a living. And I feel like I never set a goal for what comes after. So, like, once you achieve that, I just got to keep going, do more jobs, keep traveling, or like, what's the goal after? And I feel like I kind of accomplished this, like the goal I set for myself like a year ago.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now it's more about like giving it back. So, like, starting to build a community, have some more freedom in what I do and like where I go to travel. And we also just started an agency. So it's about like scaling that, having a bit more operational side of things, giving other people the opportunity to do the same thing. And yeah, that's the
Cool.
goals.
Awesome. Yeah, when you talk about goals there, um it's very difficult to always be focused on desire. Desire is often the cause of many people's suffering, right? You always want something, and then you get it. It's like we just had the Olympics. A lot of these gold medal athletes will be falling in, sad to say, but some will fall into depression over the next year. Because it's like, what do I do next? Like, I've achieved my life's goal. Now what? Right? It's start again or do something different or pivot. Always having that purpose, I guess, which is difficult to kind of have clarity over. Tell us a little bit more about if you feel like your purpose is now to give back a little bit and balance the two, so you'll continue kind of chasing the dream in terms of the jobs, but also agencies and other stuff on the side. Is that correct?
For sure. I think the big end goal is always going to be freedom. So in whatever you do. Like, for example, the travel jobs are super nice. And for me, when I was like going to university, that was my imagination of what freedom looks like. But now I've done that for a year, and now my way of freedom looks a little bit different. So, like for example, I define where I'm gonna be, and I'm getting more selective with the jobs I'm kind of doing, because before my only income stream was these like kind of travel jobs. I had to do and I had to travel, but now I don't want to have to travel. Is that
Mm-hmm.
English?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good.
But I want to choose if I want to
Yeah.
travel,
What a
not
great
because I have
position to
to.
be in.
I'm trying.
How did you get there? Tell everyone.
I think it's just a process of everything, but my life changed so much over these last 2 years, and me sitting here saying this right now is actually still it's very crazy to me.
That's awesome. Congratulations. I'm super happy for you. Tell us a little bit about what else kind of um, was in the equation. What else was in the formula for you to get to this point? And I'm thinking more inspirations. So you mentioned Sam Calder. Anyone else in the space that you really kind of leveraged your skills off?
I think it's a mixture of everyone I spend my time with because every single creative has different sides of seeing things and learnings they can give you. So I think it was about people that already accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and then people who were motivated to achieve the same thing. And these two things kind of pushed me to achieve that kind of goal. But I can't tell you like exact names. It was just a mixture of everyone. And I started reaching out to people on Instagram who inspired me, asked them what they were doing, if they could bring me on a job. And I feel like that's such a powerful way to attract these kind of things. Just like reach out. Cause I feel like everyone in the space is super supportive. And if you're really interested in learning and are talented and eager, then I think nothing can stop you.
Hi, everyone. Just a really quick break in the podcast to tell you about something that's been a game changer for my own work. You know, I'm all about creating content that's impactful and visually stunning. And a big part of that is thanks to Artlist. I use Artlist for all the dramatic cinematic music you see in the trailers and that brings all my other videos to life. And their massive library of high quality stock footage and sound effects is honestly a lifesaver. Whether you're a filmmaker, content creator, or photographer, Artlist has everything you need to take your projects to the next level. What I love most about Artlist, though, is how easy it makes finding the perfect asset. I'm super lazy, and their platform is super user friendly. And the quality of their music and footage is just top notch. It doesn't matter if you're working on a big project or just something small, Artlist certainly has the range and the quality to make your work really stand out. Plus, everything is royalty free, so you can use it however you like without worrying about the legal stuff. And because I believe in sharing the good stuff, here's a little perk for you. Use the link in the description to sign up for an annual plan, and you'll get 2 extra months free. It's a great deal to keep your creative juices flowing even longer. All right, let's get back to the episode. It's amazing how many people that you perceive as your heroes or that you've inspired by will reply to you and will take the time to chat. Oh yeah, they're actually just human beings at the end of the day, and
For sure.
they want to give back as well. Most of these great, and like you said, it's once you kind of dive into those layers, you find that everyone is super supportive,
Yeah, and they're
with
just
the odd
humans as
exception.
well.
But they're just people
Yeah,
still with the same battles, still fighting the same goals and desires and doubts and fears. So yeah, if anyone hesitates, I would suggest they don't. And for you, I mean, I'm sure you get loads of messages from people. And can you pinpoint something that is most common that you get asked in terms of your audience?
I think I get a lot of questions about Bali because I've spent quite a lot of time here. So like just like casual travel tips.
Oh, okay.
And I actually I got the question a lot if people can intern with me.
Okay.
And I actually have an intern from October, which is which is
Cool.
gonna be cool. Yeah, and then just to travel together, which is also a big thing,
Awesome.
traveling together.
People want to come and travel with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Um, when you talk about inspirations, or at least the way you learned, was there I know this is a lot of the questions I get, but maybe you get these types of questions as well. Was there a conscious decision to create a specific style or theme to your work in terms of the technical side of it, or did you not worry too much about that because most of the time when you're doing jobs, it's about the person, not always about the aesthetics or the technical side of it?
I would say it's just go with the flow, I guess. Create whatever
See what
feels right.
happens.
Of course, depending on the jobs, there's like some requirements, especially like for example, beautiful destinations, they still want like a lot of this like fast paced transition, temp colder kind of style. Um and then some want more like artistic with more storytelling. So I would say like when it comes to client shoots, it always depends on the client. When I'm doing personal content, it's always what I'm in the mood for kind of.
So when it comes, I'm more interested in what your personal stuff. So you sit down and you maybe come up, tell us about your process, idea formulation onto what mood boards or concepts or just playing around with stuff. How do you go about creating something?
I would say there's always two ways. Way one is just shoot something and figure out after. It's just like out of the mood because you're kind of feeling inspired in the moment. And the other way is I get a lot of inspiration from Vimeo. There's a lot of like beautiful commercials with lots of storytelling, and that's like when I plan out actual shoots. Um, and yeah, these two ways. So for example, if I use Vimeo, I create a mood board with like Shot Deck. Shot Deck has like different
That's amazing.
frames. Do you know Shot Deck?
Yeah, where they take frames from movies and stuff. Oh,
Insane,
that's
right?
brilliant.
It's such a level up for
Yeah,
everything, inspiration, lighting. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah, people need to go and check that. I didn't know about it until maybe a few months ago because I'm always watching movies. I'll pause the movie. And go, how do they, how do they like that? You know, so yeah, that's a really, really good platform. What has been more the? I mean, I'm keen to hear about your expectations before and after. Like before, you had this goal of being a travel filmmaker, and then you went and did it. Was there something during that journey that you thought was different to what it might have been?
That's a really good question. Um, in one way, yes. In the other way, no. So of course you're traveling all the time. You're seeing all these amazing places, and you're pretty much getting flown out to be there. And in the beginning, this was like absolutely insane. I think one thing I was not expecting is that it's so hard on your body. Like the time zone is changing all the time. You don't have a routine. Sometimes you're forced to, like, for example, we were in Turkey on a shoot, and I'm vegetarian, but we were in southern Turkey, and there's only meat. So I was eating bread for like 10 days. So that's like stuff you cannot, yeah,
It's funny now, but in the moment, yeah,
it wasn't
you
great,
need a
but
good diet to work well. Yeah.
so it's finding a balance, I guess. Like having a balanced lifestyle is pretty much impossible when you're on the go 24/7.
How do you define creativity?
In which way? Like,
Well, I think I only ask because it's a word that gets thrown around a lot and can mean so many different things depending on, I guess, who you are and what you do. Um, okay, let me rephrase. What does creativity mean to you?
flow state. Have you
Okay.
ever heard about
Yeah.
yeah. It's pretty much dedicating yourself fully to the craft you're fully passionate about, and just going all in without having any ego in the back of your mind. That's creativity for me, like raw creativity.
Where does it come from?
Inspiration, I feel like a lot from the outer world, and emotions, experiences. I feel like creativity is a way of expressing our inner world.
As in your inner world, as in who you are as a person. Can you elaborate on how specifically how that applies to you and your work? What does you look like in your craft?
So I think I just said it's a reflection of your inner world, but I think you take the inspiration from the outer world, you process it, and you reframe it in your own way, kind of. That's creativity for me, because every single person has their own experiences in life and unique perspective on things, and I think it's just a way of expressing that, whatever it
What a
is.
great answer. Because creativity is not something that's I was talking about a difference between originality and uniqueness. You are original because there is no other Julie in this world, right? Unless it's in a different world we don't know about. So that's original. And then you've got to try and be unique amongst so many other people in what you do that's the same as other people, right? So many filmmakers around the world. The less I think people worry about that and the less they're able to just exactly how you said it, like we're all influenced by many things, whether it's our internalities in terms of neurons firing, emotions, thoughts that no one chooses what they think, right? Your
Obviously.
thoughts come up all the time. So that's innate, but you're also influenced by what other people say and their thoughts. So that's such a great way of putting it. Creativity is kind of sat in the middle of that, right? And it's how you perceive and create something from that. Really, really interesting. There is no, I guess, checklist for that. There's no kind of
Not really.
go and do this, go and do this. But people teach it.
People do teach it.
People teach creativity, which is weird to me. You know, it's
Because
like,
it feels so natural, right?
isn't the definition of creativity like a natural creation? Right? If you create something, by definition, it's make something from nothing. So to be able to teach ways of being creative is a bit strange, but I think there are ways that can help you be creative. I don't know.
I feel like even just surrounding yourself with people who are creative, like you're the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time at, that subconsciously already influences you so much. And I feel like once you see how they do it, like in action, and you're surrounded by their energy and their way of thinking, you adopt these ways of thinking. Like I'm a different person every time I'm like in a new place, pretty much. And whoever I surround myself with. And since I'm mostly surrounded by like creative people, I'm also like creating a lot. And now I'm living with 2 entrepreneurs. And now I'm like focusing more on the entrepreneurship side of things, you know? And it's crazy what your surroundings have an influence, like how what kind of influence they have on you.
That is amazing. Um, So where you talked about your output being an expression of the inner you. What is the inner you? What is the inner Julie? Tell us who you are.
I think it's constantly changing depending
But
on.
there's got to be some common denominators in there, surely. Or is it
you,
just a completely new person every time?
you mean like adjectives?
Yeah.
Mm, okay, I would say open minded, very open minded, creative. Once we already spoke about it. Um, then I like to, that's not certainly an adjective, but I like to try new things and see how these new things have the possibility to change and have an impact on my and other people's lives. I think that's my current main focus, I guess. Um, I'm very adventurous, spontaneous, and yeah, I just don't think a lot, but I just do things.
Don't overthink things, just get on and do it. That's freedom for you. Um yeah, I think the lesson I take from that, I'm always trying to kind of listen to what someone says and then how can we learn from this other person, right? Like hugely inspirational words from you, by the way. But I think we can take from that, just throw yourself in the right environment, right? Just go and whether it's the community or whether it's just saying yes to a job or saying yes to going traveling or the step that will take you hopefully towards your goal. And it's easy to say, right? Because it's scary. It's so many doubts and things go wrong. And as long as we can reframe those into learning lessons, then just move on. And but yeah, putting yourself in that environment, especially with the community side, I think is hugely important.
That's crazy. I feel like that's also the biggest step. What's giving you the opportunity to go towards your goals. Just believing that it's possible for yourself. Because how would you know that you can become a successful entrepreneur or a successful filmmaker or successful teacher when you never know like how it actually feels like living that kind of life, you know? Or you don't know how these people actually live from day to day. It's like it's crazy. Like
So, what are you doing now on the community side? What are you doing now on the entrepreneurial side? Can you share kind of on the agency side? Can you share more about that?
so first of all, the community side of things. I mean, I personally was part of Golden Creative, which has been massive impact for my career for getting the outreach. But I feel like what I've always been missing personally is like community events and trips and all these kind of things. And since I get the question so often if people can like travel with me or like get surrounded by these creative things, um, I'm building kind of a brand for people to travel with other creatives and filmmakers. And overall, we're hosting like events where everyone can like just gather. And the first one is in October, which is very exciting.
Cool.
We already have 150 people signed up.
Yeah. So by the time this goes out, it'll be too late. So sorry about that.
But yeah, I mean, we're planning future things probably also in Africa with a couple of other brands, bigger brands, and we have a lot of visions. I'm not sure where this is gonna go, but for now it's going great. So I'm excited for this side of things.
So what do people get if they get into this event or they get into this giveaway or what? Tell us a little bit about the specifics of that.
So I think the main thing is the creative community. So it's a lot of value, just like the personal exchange with people. Like social media nowadays is powerful, but personal side of things gets kind of lost, I feel like. And nothing is more worth than your network. Like your network is your net worth. And it's been the biggest changing point for me in my career. And I'm sure it can be a big changing point for a lot of people. And I have this network of people who are already successful and of people who want to start out. And I see the perfect matching point where I can come in and help.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's needed more than ever. Um, just in my own experience, but you talked about social media there, which we'll just touch on in a minute. It seems to be not as communal as it once was, or not as easy to form an authentic and genuine community as maybe it was. So things like what you're doing, and I've seen it firsthand in here in this studio as well as many other places. Like it's so powerful, and to get inspiration from these types of groups, communities, events is, I think, It can only be a good thing, even though it can be competitive, there can be envy, there can be backstabbing, just like any other industry, just like any other sector, just like any other human nature, right?
Yeah.
But overall, I'm excited to see what comes of it. Yeah. So you talked about kind of social media and kind of stepping out into not into a limelight, but at least making yourself stand out a little bit on platforms like Instagram. You know, when you've got over 100 million photos and videos posting every day. Is that part of your strategy? I mean, is Instagram platforms, YouTube, social media, is that something that you think about in what you do?
Instagram for sure. I've been definitely thinking about YouTube also, but it's like for me personally, it's not worth the time invest versus what I get from it because it takes a lot of
Yeah,
time to build it. And it wouldn't really make sense at the current position I'm in. But Instagram is such a powerful way. And I feel like nowadays it's more important the quality of followers than the quantity. Because I mean, if you have like 100 super powerful clients following you versus I don't know, 2,000 people from who have no freaking idea about like what you're even doing. I'd rather choose the 100 people who are, yeah, high
absolutely.
value followers.
How long do you spend on Instagram every day?
Oh God, you don't want to know.
What's your screen time?
How long do you use? Oh my God. Probably I have better times right now, 7 hours, which is not good. Yeah, yeah.
On not on Instagram.
Screen time.
Screen time. Yeah, I'd say, but I think that's below average. I think just, but yeah, there's still. Yeah, actually, well, that's must be including laptop and stuff, or is it just phone?
I think that might be just the phone, but I work a lot from the
Yeah,
phone,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah. You tell yourself that.
I,
Yeah,
I yeah, maybe. How about you? What's
it's
your screen
insane.
time?
Couple of hours, but I when I add in laptop, because I'm on my laptop a lot of the time during the days, it gets up to that 7, 8 hour mark, which I'm okay with, because you know it's a tool. You're using it for something. Um, yeah, I can't remember why I asked that question, but I think so many people get so consumed with social media, it kind of warps their mind, or at least their mindset. Have you ever had that difficulty of someone being on so prevalent on social media and there's a lot, especially if you're doing it yourself in terms of answering DMs, answering comments, staying active, staying engaged. That's a couple of hours every day. Certainly at your level of followers, you've got a lot of story views, and then you're trying to engage, and you're probably putting out stories where you want people to engage, asking questions, and you know, it becomes an integral part of your day. Is that something for someone who's so mindful and you know practices great habits during the day? Is that something you worry about as a digital filmmaker, essentially?
For sure. I mean, it's super intertwined because that consumerism and the work part are like super like they're merged together pretty much. Like once you go on Instagram, you answer the DMs that are maybe for work. You also answer the DMs where some friends send you some funny posts, and then you start scrolling and scrolling, and it's never ending. And like this whole dopamine, it kind of like it catches you. And once you have this one reel, you want to see the next one and the next one, and suddenly 2 hours are over. You were like, oh, I just wanted to answer this client DM. You know, it's not great. Um, and
2 hours.
it's hard to set like actual
Yeah.
boundaries, right?
Yeah. Do you set screen limits? No.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
always
just ignore.
yeah. I'm working hardly on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, there's a problem. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, it's you know, it's a tool, and I realized that relatively quickly. I got into Instagram late. I mean, I'm an old granddad essentially, and I did photography way before Instagram, so but Instagram was around when I started photography, but I was so adamant that I wasn't gonna, you know, I just didn't like the whole premise of social media, showing off and like putting yourself out there. Eventually came around to that, and now I spend probably 90% of my social media time on YouTube,
Wow.
podcasts, clips, just hopefully like learning something. And then obviously I post and stuff on Instagram, and yeah, just answering DMs, which I think is really, really important from audience members. Other than that, like I sometimes find myself scrolling. but I'm usually able to catch it within a couple of minutes. Oh no, don't need. That's funny, but I'll watch it later.
It
Or yeah,
happens naturally,
so many
right?
funny videos.
It's true, but every single video influences you subconsciously.
Yep. But what I now tell myself is, look, do I want this type of content being presented to me next time I open up Instagram? Because now you know how the algorithm works. That's what stops me more than, I shouldn't be on Instagram. It's like when I open Instagram, I want to see incredible photos, incredible video. That's me. I just photos, video, like cinematic videos, like real filmmaking, real photography, like professional stuff. That's all I want to see. And then stuff like I like MMA fighting, so some of that comes in, and then my wife will send me a funny video of someone falling over. So then that comes in, and then before you know it, like you said, you're just losing your time. Yeah,
But the
interesting.
algorithm is crazy, right? Like it naturally recognizes what you like and what you don't, and within like 2 days, you can change up everything what's getting shown to you, which is crazy.
That's the scariest thing. It really is. But also for someone who wants for us as visual artists, we want our stuff seen.
Yeah.
So, when you post something, you don't know who's going to see it. You don't know if none of your or actual genuine audience who want to see things from you. So then you end up posting twice. Like if you have a broadcast channel, I post twice because you post and they go, oh, if you didn't see this, most of them go, no, I didn't see this. This didn't come up on my feed. So you end up playing this just circus of algorithm chasing, which is even worse than doom scrolling, in my opinion, because you never beat the algorithm. As long as we can, like you said earlier, just stay as authentic as we can, do what we do, get in our flow state, would let everything else fall into place if we can. Easier said than done, especially when you need social media sometimes to get money, to get
Yeah.
clients,
Yeah.
right? So you got to play it that way as well.
Yeah. It's hard to find the balance and like
Yeah.
set boundaries for yourself. But
Yeah.
I say like it's a constant process learning.
Now I speak to photographers who teach workshops. They actually now include in their workshops how to deal with social media, right? Because they recognize it's an integral part of growing as an artist. It has to be, especially Instagram. And maybe in your case, more so YouTube. I mean, I know some filmmakers who just, right, I've got to do it. I've got to go into YouTube. That's what I want to put. And like you said, a lot of work into. It's so much work, but hey.
Frequent posting. I live with a YouTuber, Martin Schrader. He has his own photography course and he's like literally constantly doing new YouTube videos all day, new inspiration, new shooting. I see how much work it is. I respect every person who does YouTube full time.
Oh my goodness. So much.
It's crazy.
There's a lot of shit out there, but still you gotta put the time and effort in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're still playing with an algorithm. It's a little bit of an easier algorithm, but
editing, everything.
Yeah. Oh, just gives me nightmares. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
We talked about your audience and your followers. I asked this to a lot of people actually, but it's an interesting question. Hopefully, interesting answer. Why do you think your followers follow you?
One point, inspiration.
Why?
I think my content is pretty unique. Like I have a pretty unique style when it comes to filmmaking. That's one reason. Then potentially some business insights and like things like community events. Because I oftentimes like ask if, for example, somebody's available to join a trip or yeah, for example, the event thing. Like I always post about job opportunities. I think that's also one thing. And yeah, these two are the main reasons, I guess.
Excuse the interruption very briefly, but I'd like to just take a moment to introduce you to a partner that has supported this podcast for a long time now. And it's Yore, a brand that truly stands at the intersection of art and craftsmanship. Yore offers handcrafted jewelry and wearable pieces of art, some of which are infused with something extraordinary, moon rock. Yep, you heard it right. Yore's unique designs incorporate rocks from the moon into silver and gold, creating really special jewelry that's not just beautiful, but otherworldly. Every piece from Yore is ethically sourced as well, and it's locally handcrafted, ensuring that you're not just wearing jewelry, but an actual story, a piece of art, and a connection to something far, far greater. Whether you're drawn to spirituality, fashion, the art of meaningful adornment, or just feeling and looking epic, Your offers something truly special. Plus, they offer free worldwide shipping, making it easier than ever to bring a touch of the cosmos into your life. As a special offer for my lovely audience of the Mood podcast, you can click the link below in the description and use the code Art of Intent at checkout to receive a whopping 20% off your first order. So, don't miss this chance to own a real piece of the moon and experience the art of intent with your. Okay, I'm done. Promise. I'll let you get back to it. What would you say your secret ingredient is?
For style relating filmmaking?
For anything, for you as a person, you as a filmmaker, you as an entrepreneur, you as a community leader, you as a female in a man's world, whatever it might be. What is it that one kind of little secret ingredient that makes Julie tick?
Um, I think it is believing that everything is possible once you see it possible for yourself. You can,
Amazing.
yeah.
Love it. Looking ahead then, what's I know you're working on a lot of things. Is something like legacy important to you, or are you just kind of focusing more on the process? Do you care a lot about what you leave behind? Is that something you've even thought about?
Like leaving behind, for example, family and
No,
stuff.
body of work, like
Body
in
of work.
terms of films, in terms of businesses, in terms of something that you can step away from saying, I made that.
Like what I'm proud of
Yeah.
producing. So I would say I really like the OnePlus the OnePlus video we did in Tokyo. That was in Tokyo. Um, I didn't even do a lot of long form content over the last couple of months, which is pretty sad actually. I would love to do more about it. But most of my client work is actually constantly like Reels projects. What I'm really proud of is the Turkish Airlines project we did in May this year. And then I did a show reel, which is kind of merging different voices in different languages from different like shots with different locations all across the world. That's something I really am proud of producing. Yeah, that's
And what about the future when you look ahead? Is there something does that play into your creative process or your goal setting? Like I want to build a body of work, I want to build something like say, oh, that this is Julie, this is what I made in my filmmaking career. Does that matter to you?
it does matter to a certain extent. I feel like like currently my business goals are a little bit different. Like they're not mainly focused on like getting more client work. They're more focused on like community, building an agency, scaling the agency, these kind of things. But I'm sure it's gonna go back to that, and then that I want to focus more on the creative process, on doing more impressive storytelling and creating bigger projects with bigger clients. But I think that's a focus for next year probably.
Okay. What is as we start to wrap up here, what if there was a message that you wanted to give budding filmmakers or your audience and other people out there, what would that message be?
Network is everything. Once you believe it's possible for yourself, it's gonna like the opportunities are gonna open up, and consistency is key. These three things:
Networking,
networking,
belief,
belief, consistency,
consistency.
and stay unique. Point four.
Bonus tip. Stay unique.
Bonus tip.
How do you stay unique?
Stay unique. I feel like nowadays people are just like reusing the same audios, the same content. I mean, we all know it, like running through the waterfalls and like, the kind of shots
Yeah.
most people. Yeah.
Scroll.
It's like you've seen this reel 10 millions of times. Like, who's gonna hire you or over the other person who already has 200,000 followers, that also posted that kind of reel? It's like the same content on like 10 million accounts, but nobody thinks about like creating something new, something unique that hasn't been out there. That's a massive tip.
How do they do that? How do we do it? How do we be unique?
Be different. I think take inspiration from people who are doing something different and merge that together with your own vision.
Yeah, it's difficult to have your own vision, isn't it? Sometimes. I mean, some people obviously find it more easy, and we talked about this earlier, being creative. Some people find it more easy than others. Um, but it's easy to say, well, merge it with your visions, or I don't know where to start. It's certainly learning a new skill, whatever skill that might be. You can get overwhelmed so easily, and you do a client job, and then you do another client job, and they're vastly different, and then you do this and that, and then you travel and you're exhausted, and you come back here and then you got your own space. Like, what do I do now, kind of thing. Where is my vision? How do I kind of curate that? I don't Looking at your face, I don't think you have that problem.
I do have creative burnout like seasons, but I always get the inspiration back in some way.
How?
Doing something different, like surrounding myself with new people, trying out something completely different, a new style maybe, or a new business. Like when I came here in May, like 2 months ago, I was really burned out from all the traveling. I came from 6 weeks of shooting nonstop, like 4 different jobs, and it was like,
Wow.
this is too much. And I had like 4 weeks of editing ahead. And I was like, this needs to change. I need to change something. And since I started thinking differently and surrounding myself with people who have different visions in life, I suddenly got new ideas. And they kind of came naturally, and then one thing comes to the other. I feel like, yeah, inspiration comes naturally once you start stepping out of your comfort zone.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah. Easy, just like that.
easy.
Okay,
So
last
easy.
question. Um, Before I ask a question, thank you so much for
Thanks for
joining me
having me.
today. It's been so much fun. I hope you haven't been too hot, but we'll get the
No,
aircon
it's
in a
good.
minute.
It's good. It's good.
Finishing with one question. Tell us something that no one else knows about you.
Oh, wow. Spinning out the secrets. Wow. I gotta think about this. What no one else knows about me. I think one thing that not many people know, it's nothing crazy secret, but I graduated and I went to university when I was 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I went to school when I was 4. So I had a pretty early.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not telling this very often.
High intellect, high functioning intellect.
My parents are teachers. Probably that's where it's
Oh,
coming
wow.
from.
Got you in through the back door.
Literally.
Did that play a role in you then stepping away from it so soon?
I think so. I mean, I studied 3 different things at university. I first studied to be a teacher, then I studied economics, and then media. And I think it taught me to become very independent at a very young age, just like moving out at 16, going to university. Um, yeah, I think that has been the biggest impact, and like surrounding myself with people who are like 3 years older than me.
If teaching is in your blood, do you see yourself going down that path at some point?
Not the traditional way of teaching, like
No,
schools.
no, no, no. But just like,
Maybe like an online course or something, or like in person teachings. I could see myself doing that.
okay, watch this space.
Yeah.
Until then, thank you so much again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It was so much fun, honestly.
Cool. Thank you.
Cheers.